Hello, everyone. Since this is a little new, I decided it would be better if I went ahead and recorded a lecture to go along with your broadcast writing examples. Now, what I did here is I created two short vosots, which is your assignment, using an article I found on NPR. Now, this article is about Purdue Pharma. There were updates since then, but that's okay. Doesn't really matter. For this specific exercise, we are taking your articles and you are translating them into a vosot. Now, again, a vosot is going to be a short read accompanied by video. I am also allowing you to include graphics as well, and I explain what types you have right here. Now, graphics can include a 3-point graphic or a picture. So if you feel like your story would be better illustrated by, let's say, a bullet list or a picture instead of a video of the specific person or item you're describing, you are welcome to say, I want a graphic and this is my graphic. Okay. Now, of course, what I did was I went through here and clearly, I don't have any video of any of this. There is a recording on NPR, but I didn't even listen to it to create this specific item. Please, if you have better quotes or other quotes you want to use for this exercise, go ahead and use them. I know you have all of the copies of your interviews. You're welcome to translate them into how you would imagine hearing them in a TV or radio setting. Now, what I did was I decided to focus first on this quote from the Massachusetts Attorney General. So I went here. Okay. Now this would be the title of your piece. And let's say now, most of the time when you have a bigger story, you're going to include SOTs from specific members, or you will have a package report. I don't think you need to write a package report. You just did a really big project on it, so you'll be all right. Now, what we're doing is I'm starting, I said, with a VO monitor. And what I did here is I described the video I want my video editor to include. So this specific image I have is of the anchor reading next to the video monitor. Check the other video again if you don't understand what I'm saying. I have a video of an anchor reading at a monitor and pictures of a 2 monitor and et cetera, et cetera. So right here, it's almost always going to be only one sentence, maybe two, but usually just one. That'll be an on-camera read, and then you would take your video full, or you would start your video if this were a regular monitor. Okay, so I focused on this part because to me, this seemed like the most important part of this story is that the state attorneys general immediately rejected the Purdue Pharma bankruptcy plan. Now, if you notice, everything here is written primarily in the present tense. If it isn't exactly in the present tense, like here where I say proposed paying, it still gives that sense of immediacy. Also, if you notice, I capitalized everything in here. When you write scripts for broadcast, they need to be in all caps. A lot of times you aren't necessarily following AP style either. Now, as you can see here, I included a pronunciation guide. There are ways you're supposed to write them, but for broadcasting, normally the person reading the script will go in and include a pronunciation guide for themselves, something that they will remember and recognize on the fly, because they are the ones who have to do it. I mean, it's their job to say it correctly. Okay, so we have our opening sentence, opening shot, explanation of what video to use. We take the video full, and also notice I did add additional space in between each line. And if you check, I'm double spaced for everything as well. Next, I focused on how much they were supposed to pay. Now, the quote we're using is talking about the Sacklers specifically, not about Purdue Pharma. So we have to lead into that. How do we lead into that? Well, they're talking about how the Sacklers are trying to offer a way for payments to be structured for their convenience, not for the convenience of the people who were hurt. So we'll say, okay, in the proposal, the opioid manufacturer was going to pay $500 million up front. And then the owners, the Sackler family, would pay about $4 billion over 10 years. But they said they didn't want to fix a timeline to the payments. And then we take our SOT. Normally, there would be an update after this explaining what's going to happen next. Specifically in this article, they did not include that information. Therefore, I did not include it in this vosot. But you are allowed, if you want to include something else, you can say, type in on cam cue. And what that would normally look like is it would be a center shot on the anchor and they would deliver the final line. You normally don't want a whole lot at the end. It's just something to wrap it up, like their next court date or whatever is going to happen next. Okay, so for the second one, what I did is I created a straight to VO read. So for this one, we needed to include something to transition. So we're transitioning using a wipe, and then we'll take VO and same description. I pretty much know what I want from it. Of course, if we had specific video of this event, we would want that. In this case, we're talking about their entire bankruptcy hearing. So we'd use whatever the latest video is if it looks all right, and the Sackler family video that we probably have on file already. So same opening line, 24 attorneys general are rejecting a bankruptcy plan filed by OxyContin manufacturer Purdue Pharma. And then we'll go into the proposed plan outlines additional settlements from both the pharmaceutical company and its owners, the Sackler family. Critics argue even after $4 billion in payments, the Sacklers would still be one of the richest families in the US. Now, how did I transition into this one? So if we look at our article, they have multiple layers to this. It starts talking about the rejection of the plan, and then Sackler's boosting their offer. So technically, they were adding more money to the settlement, but they also had a lot of criticism, not just from the attorneys general, but from other activists. So, let's see, is it? Well, this is the quote we're using right here. Yeah, here we go. So critics say the Sacklers would remain one of the wealthiest dynasties in the US despite their company's role fueling an addiction crisis that has killed more than 450,000 Americans. So we are taking that transition sentence and changing it for broadcast. So wealthiest dynasties, even though it reads really well, isn't necessarily the best whenever you're trying to convey the information to a TV audience. So we call them one of the richest families instead. And then we have a sot from the activist Nan Golden. And that one, you could leave it, or if you had, again, the information concerning what would happen next, you would go on cam and have your final sentence right there. Now, as far as the limitations for everything, the the biggest thing to me, it isn't so much that you're specifically sticking to the 2 to 4 sentence format. It's, are you including the most important information in a an understandable manner for a television audience? So if leaving out your 5th sentence makes it too weird and something that the audience may not understand, then leave it in. But I would also argue often you are able to go in and either shorten another sentence or remove certain pieces of information entirely. Like when I was going through my script earlier, I noticed that I still included the Monday night information. Well, at this point in time, we really don't care that they just, I mean, you do care that they just turned in the information, but you also don't. And to tighten up the script, we, I got rid of some of this in the extemporaneous information, some of the extra stuff that we really don't need. All right. Well, I hope this helps you understand how to transition your articles into broadcasting vosots. If you have any more questions about them, please let me know. Send me an email, post on Moodle, and I'll try to answer you as soon as possible. Thanks.